I was stunned in reading some of the numbers on this next subject matter. Did you know that since COVID, according to those that keep track of such things, nearly 1 in 3 students is more chronically absent from school than they were prior to COVID? Just how bad is this? What kind of problem does it present? Erika Donalds is with us. She is the guest faculty at the Leadership Institute, and she's the CEO of Optima Ed, and she joins us now on SNC Tonight. Erika, thanks for being here. I just, when you see a number that big, and the raw number that I saw is nearly 15 million students, that's a lot of kids missing a lot of school.
It absolutely is. And that is, as you said, doubled from prior to COVID. 1 in every 3 students affected by this. And in the most disadvantaged communities, that number is 60%, where more than half of the students are chronically absent, missing 10% of school or more. We know that if these students are not in school, then they're not learning. And because of the great learning loss they've already experienced, this is going to be a death knell to our academic system and the future of our country going forward. We cannot maintain our democratic republic without an informed and educated citizenry, which is why you and I and everyone who's listening should be very concerned about this rise in chronic absenteeism.
Okay, when I hear people talk about absenteeism, I'm kind of harken back to the 70s and the truant officers and the people that were going house to house to check and see if kids were skipping school. Since the emergence of the homeschool movement and charter schools and more creative educational formats, are we certain that this absenteeism is applicable to the negative that we're fearing here?
Well, you're absolutely right. We think back to truancy, unexcused absences, parents that refuse to send their children to school or who just don't care. But that's not what we're talking about here. During COVID, as you and I both know, parents started keeping their children home for the sniffles, for every little symptom. It was very hands off in terms of the schools sending the message that they don't want the children to come to school for a very long time. And in some cases, they said, well, children don't need to learn in person. So that has permeated the culture. And we've seen it in the workplace. We've seen employers complaining about increased absenteeism. So these absences could be excused absences. They're not necessarily unexcused, and they don't even necessarily rise to what we would call truancy. But that doesn't mean they don't have a severe effect on the student's academic performance. You know, we know these students need 4 months more schooling than what they are getting in order to catch up from learning loss. If they're actually getting less schooling, well, then not only are they never going to catch up, but they're also going to be underperforming what we would expect before COVID.
Well, what are some solutions to this? And I have a suggestion, by the way, because my kids' school, from the time we go back in the fall, there seemed to be anywhere from 2 to 10 days a month that we're observing every single holiday of every single religious observance that there might be under the sun. I mean, when I was a kid, it was Christmas break and spring break, and that was what we got. Maybe the extra day after Thanksgiving, but that was about it. Now we're observing every single thing under the sun. And there are weeks, literally, where in some parts of the fall, my kids are in school for 3 days out of 5, multiple weeks back to back.
Well, I am a proponent of year-round schooling. The current school system is antiquated. There's no reason why we should allow the summer slide to occur and students fall behind every single summer. But as you said, these students need to be in school. Well, why do we have so many days off? A lot of that has come from negotiation with teachers' unions. You have teacher planning days and teacher days off throughout the year. And so, yes, we have created a culture where going to school Monday through Friday for the majority of the year is no longer the norm. Then you had COVID hit and employers and schools asking parents and students to stay home for various reasons. We need to send the message from leadership, whether it's your school district, your state legislature, like the state of Florida that has taken this up, that students need to be back in school 100% all of the time. We need to add school days, not subtract them. We need to reward high attendance rates, both individuals who have great attendance, classrooms, and schools. And most importantly, we need schools and districts to be transparent about this problem to all of their stakeholders and tell us what are they doing to combat this issue.
If the learning is at a loss, as you've implied that it is, and I don't have any reason to doubt you, it would seem to me that parents would eventually find out about that and understand that it is a problem. Are they being communicated with honestly?
Well, unfortunately, we have seen rampant grade inflation continue past COVID. During the COVID years, we saw a huge spike in grade inflation, meaning that schools are not being honest with parents about student performance. They were being very lax about turning in assignments, grading of assignments. You would expect that once students are back in school, that would have subsided. Unfortunately, it has not. There are studies that show 89% of students earning A's and B's in their classes. We know that cannot be the case. We see teachers getting sued for being too hard on students with grades. So that culture has also permeated. It is not an honest system. And therefore, we need parents to rise up and understand that they're being lied to about student performance. And this grade inflation really has to be addressed so that parents know how absenteeism is affecting their student, but even more so, how their school is actually doing in teaching the subject matter.
Is there a model bill that you can point to that a state is using that would be something that you'd like to see the rest of the country adopt?
I really wish there were. Thankfully, the Florida legislature, which just started back in session this week, did hold a workshop in the Education Quality Subcommittee about absenteeism, exposing a lot of the data and saying that they will take this up during this legislative session and come up with some solutions, at the very least holding school districts accountable for the level of absenteeism that we're seeing and showing some transparency about the issue here in Florida. So at least they are recognizing it's an issue, coming up with some solutions. We haven't seen any bills yet, but I do expect it to be a topic in the next 60 days where the Florida legislature is in session. And as usual, Florida leading the country because this is a national issue. I absolutely think that other states will be following suit.
All right. Erika Donalds, Leadership Institute and CEO of Optima Ed, thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it.